Jerry Jones criticized Dallas Cowboys wide receiver CeeDee Lamb on Friday. What did we take away from his comments? All that and more this episode of the Locked On Cowboys podcast.
You are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked On Cowboys. Locked On Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We want to thank you for making us your first listen of the day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. I am Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. He is Landon McCool. Check him out on Twitter at McCoolBCB. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not much. It's Friday. We got a big game this weekend. I mean, I think for both teams, they definitely would like to come out with a win. A tough opponent, and obviously without Dak, so we've got a lot to talk about.
Can we just be clear? Like, this is clearly a bigger game for the Bengals than it is for the Cowboys, just to be honest, right? Like, the Bengals need to win this game. For the Cowboys, I mean, we'll get into the game preview, but, like, I don't want to talk about moral victories, but if the Cowboys just play better and hang with the Bengals, I think we'll be encouraged, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think the expectation game is really where we have to look at this, right? For the Cowboys, without Dak Prescott, we're looking to steal a couple of these games while he's gone, just to give us something to kind of hold on to the season. The Bengals, they just went to the Super Bowl last year. They do not want to come out of the gate 0-2. And so this is really like a feelings game in Cincinnati, right? Like,
yeah, this is almost a must win, especially with their division they play in and the conference as a whole. Like, you kind of got to win this one.
Yeah, I would say in the conference overall, just because there's so many teams that are going to be eligible for the playoffs. And yeah, like you said, a division's so killer. You cannot start 0-2 and hope to necessarily come back later on in the season.
Exactly. All right, we're going to preview that Cowboy-Bengal game in just a minute, but Jerry Jones and Mike McCarthy both had some really interesting comments on Friday, just to get us all riled up. Let's start with Jerry Jones, Jerry Jones, who was talking about CeeDee Lamb. I'm going to read you the quote. Talking about CeeDee Lamb being doubled. People are covering your best receiver. That happens. What do? You've got to play through being covered. You've got to catch balls covered. You can't just because they doubled you up, not make some plays. My point is every team in the league is faced with the same thing. They're going to have the best receiver double covered. What the best receiver should do is play through that coverage and open up players underneath. Landon, I only ask you this question because Stephen Jones also went on record earlier this week talking about how they need more from CeeDee Lamb. Are you surprised that the Joneses are criticizing CeeDee Lamb?
No. I'm not surprised. I'm surprised with the methodology, though, because it's not like CeeDee Lamb faced a ton of double teams in that game. So I guess, the criticism, I guess, makes some sense. Jerry's specific criticism doesn't make a ton of sense. I tend to think that likely what happened is that somebody told Jerry, hey, CeeDee didn't play very well. And then Jerry made all these assumptions as to why CeeDee didn't play. Well, I mean, he watched the game and everything, but I don't know. Like, I think they do need more from CeeDee Lamb. Absolutely, they need more from CeeDee Lamb, and they've needed more from CeeDee Lamb for a while. Like, that's a legitimate criticism. CeeDee Lamb needs to become the receiver that we all have expected it to, especially with his talent level. I think that Jerry's criticism of him is not correct necessarily or accurate. But I think that he got the note from somebody else who maybe was onto something, and then, he kind of assumed a lot of stuff.
But what's funny is they've gone back and forth, because I can remember Jerry Jones talking about Dez like in 2013 and 2014, and we had the same criticism back then. Hey, why are you allowing teams just to double Dez and take him out of the games? And the response always was, well, hey, that means everybody else has one-on-one opportunities. Other players have to step up, right? How come that's not the belief now? If CeeDee Lamb is getting double teamed all the time, which he's not, as you mentioned, why isn't it up to Dennis Houston and Noah Brown to win their one-on-one matchups?
Well, because then you'd have to admit what the actual problem was the game.
Exactly.
which
that's
is that
why it's not
your
happening.
quarterback played terribly, and that you need to, not heap all of this onto him, and that's
Not
what
only
you're
did
trying
they
to avoid.
Right, Dak did not play a ball, but also you have to acknowledge that maybe Dennis Houston and Simi Fehoko, those guys are a little bit overmatched trying to win one-on-one against good cornerbacks.
I think that there's some of that. I mean, certainly. I think the premise of why all this was supposed to work was that CeeDee Lamb would play better than he's played. I think we knew that Houston and Brown and Fehoko were not probably immediately up to snuff as the kind of other wide receivers, that they were hopefully going to grow into that role, or at least hold off the role until Gallup comes in. I mean, they're doing what they can. I think we all realize it. The reason that we're going, that people are criticizing CeeDee Lamb is because the talented players get the criticism. Like the guys that are supposed to be the ones that are getting the attention and the glory should be the ones that are receiving the criticism here. I thought that Noah Brown played a fine game, for being the quarterback.
I thought he was fine. The other receivers, not so much.
I think that they played on par, like relative to where CD played. You know what I'm saying? Like where CD should have been and where he ended up is probably equivalent to where those other guys were. But
I don't think CeeDee Lamb played a great game by any means. But he was open on some routes too. But Dak was just late. Honestly, I just feel like the whole offense was out of sync. And I don't know if there's one single person you can point to and said, hey, they played really well.
And I think that's the problem, right? Is that ultimately it's like I said, on Monday or whatever it was, you want to say it's CeeDee Lamb, you want to say it's Dak Prescott, you want to say it's Kellen Moore, you want to say it's Mike McCarthy, you want to say it's the Joneses.
The answer is yes to all of them.
The answer is yes, all of them. Yeah. So like, I don't know why we need to like kind of specifically point out one person more than anybody else. Like there's proportions, obviously the bigger players have more share of as to why things went wrong. But the end of the day, very few people on the offense played well. And I think we pointed them out, the ones who did play well, out.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the Cowboys offense against the Bengals defense. But before we do that, I want to tell you about Turo. Turo is the world's largest car sharing marketplace. With Turo, you can book any car you want, wherever you want it, from a community of local hosts. Browse a huge selection of vehicles for just about any occasion or budget across the U.S., Canada, and the U.K. Book a spacious SUV or a minivan for a family road trip. Get a classic or luxury car for a special event, birthday, or holiday. Find affordable economy cars if you're on a budget and just need to get from A to B. Test drive that new electric vehicle you've had your eye on to see how it fits your everyday life. Many Turo hosts can even deliver the car right to you. Every trip is backed by liability insurance. Terms and conditions and exclusions apply. Ditch boring rental cars and find your drive at Turo.com. All right, Landon, let's talk about the Cowboys offense. We talked about how poorly they played in week 1. How can they generate any type of offense here in week 2 with Cooper Rush?
I mean, it's going to be hard. Like there's just no way around it. I think the Cowboys' hope for the long term is that they have more of a success versus in the run game.
Yeah.
And that they build a passing game off of play action and kind of working off of that. I mean, that's going to be tough to do this week. They're playing a group that, includes, as you pointed out, one of my favorites, DJ Reader in the middle. The guys just really looked strong against the run week 1. They traditionally have been very good against the run. They got guys like Logan Wilson, who was kind of finally coming into his own and a second level that can play, good run defense.
Sam Hubbard's a really good left end that's just going to stop the run.
Jesse Bates is a really good two-way safety who will come down and play that well. And again, not only does Jesse Bates hurt you in the run game, but he hurts you because he's so good as a safety that it kind of mitigates some of the success you're going to have in the play action game as well. I tend to think that, it's unfortunate that we kind of went this order of breaking down the game, because to me, I think the big thing for the offense in this game is that they have got to have the defense turn the ball over for them, right? Like
they've got to have short fields, and when they have short fields, they've got to turn them into touchdowns. Like I don't see them having a lot of red zone trips in this game, Landon. So let's say you get there 2 times, you got to turn both those opportunities into touchdowns.
Yeah, and I think that's really the big key is that you're not going to, you're likely just not going to be able to maintain multiple long drives,
Right.
scoring drives.
Right.
So you're hoping that, and look, this isn't like, every week is not necessarily going to have that same game plan or hope for turnovers in order to win the game. But this is a week where it could happen. Burrows had 5 interceptions last week, right? And he got hit a lot. He got sacked a lot, and that's kind of a thing with him, right? Like with this offense, he gets hit a lot. It's almost kind of Carson Wentz, Big Ben sort of thing where he takes on a lot of hits in order to hold on to the ball and throw it down the field. So
it reminds me like of the old school Bruce Arians offenses, right? With like Andrew Luck and Ben Roethlisberger, who you mentioned before, and Carson Palmer, right? Where they're going to hold the ball because they want to try to make plays down the field. So if your pass rush can get there, or if you can make the quarterback throw the ball a little before you want to, that's when you get plays. We'll talk about the defense in a second.
They're not gonna be doing a bunch of max protect and all this. Yeah, let's talk about offense. So, anyways, I think for the Cowboys, look, it just needs to they're gonna bring it back in a little bit, kind of go with what they know. I would expect to see a lot more 2 tight ends. I would expect to see more of Jake Ferguson getting involved. Honestly, I think the one thing that we can kind of glean a little bit from the kind of previous Cooper Rush situation in Minnesota is that I think guys like Dennis Houston, guys like Brown, guys like Fajoku, they are actually likely to have some success because Cooper Rush has a lot of experience throwing to these guys. And that was a thing. If you go back to the Minnesota game, who was the big receiving threat, versus Minnesota? It was Cedric Wilson, because Cedric Wilson spent all that time with Cooper Rush and the 2. So he's going to be a little bit more familiar with, well, not maybe more familiar, but he will be plenty familiar with some of these down roster guys to kind of get them the ball. Look, we talked about it. CeeDee Lamb has got to have a big game. He's just got to show up. I don't know if he needs to have like a 200-yard receiving game.
No, but he needs to have like 5 or 6 catches on third downs to move the chains. Like that kind of stuff he needs to do.
They need him to be the player to make the big play when they need it, to convert the third down, to score the touchdown, to get into the red zone, whatever it is. They need him to show up in those big moments if they're going to have a chance to score points.
And probably just kind of knowing the way that Cooper Rush plays, CeeDee's going to have to do a lot after the catch. Like if it's 3rd and 9 and you catch the ball 4 yards short, they need CeeDee to make that play and get the first down. A couple of things really quickly. If you watched the Steelers-Bengal game last week, the Steelers did nothing on offense in their base offense. I'm talking about traditional drop back, throw it, or traditional runs. Now, they did get most of their yards on basically like smoke and mirror plays, right? Jet sweeps to Chase Claypool, double throwbacks to the backup tight end. Like that's going to be the kind of stuff that Kellen Moore is going to have to do. Maybe this is a game, Landon, where we see Kevontae Turpin, carry the ball 4 times, right? That's the kind of stuff. I would also mention the Cowboys are going to have no chance in this game if they commit a lot of penalties on offense, like we saw last week. Their offense just isn't good enough to survive a 2nd and 10 holding call, right? You can't ask Cooper Rush to, if it's 2nd and 18, you can't ask him to try to convert that stuff. So they've got to stay on schedule because I just don't think they can even overcome false starts and penalties like that.
Turnovers and offensive efficiency. That's, if you're asking me to kind of sum it up into like a real tight ball, that's it. They need the defense to commit turnovers. They need their offense to be efficient, not commit a bunch of penalties. Just keep the ball moving forward. And look, hope for the best with some of this stuff. There's going to be opportunities. You need to take advantage of the opportunities. Cooper Rush is he can do it if you give him the opportunity.
Sure.
But he needs the guys on the other end. He needs Pollard. He needs Cooper. He needs Schultz to get the ball when they get the ball, to break tackles, get it a couple extra yards, because every little bit's going to count here. You're just not going to get Cooper Rush throwing multiple bombs down the field.
No.
He will throw the ball down the field if it's there, but they're just not going to attempt it as much as they probably would with Dak. So they need to find ways to squeeze the juice out of every single opportunity they get in short passes and any opportunities with guys like those.
And you know how I've always wanted Kellen Moore to be up-tempo, aggressive early, throwing on first down, try to build leads early in games. It's changed now. Like, you can't do that in this game. Now you're going back to, like, 2003 Bill Parcells offense, where really the goal here, Landon, is just have this game be competitive in the fourth quarter. Like, just give yourself a chance. If this is a one-score game in the fourth quarter, I think they've done a fantastic job because the Bengals are just the more talented team. They've got the better offense. They've got a defense that's very comparable, if not better. Just find a way to keep this game close in the fourth quarter. And weird things happen, like we saw last week, where the long snapper gets hurt from the Bengals, and now they can't kick any kind of field goals or extra points. That's what you need to have happen in this one.
For the Cowboys to win the next month or month and a half, whatever we're calling this, 2 months, whatever we're calling this, or Dak's gone. For Dallas to win going forward, things are going to need to get weird. Let's get weird, guys.
Ball. Like, they got to play slot
weird.
Ball, right?
We need the weirdest stuff to happen. We need the ball to bounce weird. We need people to drop things that they shouldn't be dropping. Fumbles. People's pets' heads falling off. Like, the crazier the thing that can happen in the game, the better for the Cowboys. We need to inject chaos into this game. So
you need to follow.
Enter Micah Parsons.
You need to follow like the Seattle Seahawks, like for the last 3 years, where every game is just a wild adventure. Like, that's the only chance that the Cowboys have for success. Let's talk about the defense, because they are really the only hope for the Cowboys in this game. But before we do that, I want to tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all of your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. Find all the latest football league developments, game matchup, news, and podcasts, including this week's lines. Some really, really interesting lines, including the Bengals now being 8-point favorites. BetOnline is your continued source for all of your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check in on all of your favorite sports and events, including NFL, NBA, MLB, MMA, boxing, and golf. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends in action. BetOnline, where the game starts. All right.
I just had a vision of Dak as a hologram speaking to Micah Parsons. Help me, Micah Parsons. You're our only hope. Like, I mean, that's what we're talking about at this point.
Truly.
Seriously.
If the Cowboys want to win this game, they are not only going to need great performance by Micah Parsons, like they need a 2-sack game and a forced fumble, but they also need the other guys to step up. Like, we love DeMarcus Lawrence. You can't go the whole game with zero pressures. Trevon Diggs, you're probably going to have to make a play. Leighton Vander Esch, you're going to have to make a big third down stop. Like, they need everybody to play well in order to keep this game close.
Yeah, I'll throw in some other guys that need to start stepping up. I mean, not that they haven't played well, but we need them to play better because of the situation. Odigizua played fantastic week 1. He's really started to come on. I can't wait to see what he does against some of these folks in the Bengals interior. I think that you need more from Dorrance Armstrong, who is just didn't play great, and I think can play better football in general. So
Dorrance Armstrong, Dante Fowler, and DeMarcus Lawrence had zero pressures on Sunday.
I mean, that's, a lot of that is Tom Brady.
Because of the quarterback, right?
Yeah. So you can't allow that to happen with this quarterback.
No.
I mean, this quarterback generates pressure. So you need to make sure. And look, Joe Burrow is an incredible quarterback. Yep. One of the best quarterbacks in the league. Played an incredible season last year, but that's just his style of play. He's going to sit in the quarterback. He's going to sit in the pocket. So he's going to give you opportunities to hit him. You need to take advantage of those opportunities, simply because your team desperately needs more than just good defense. They need you to create points and create opportunities for this offense.
And most importantly, for the defense, you cannot allow the Bengals to get off to a fast start. Like, if this game is 10-0 to start, like in the first quarter, it's probably over. Like, you need this to be a game where the Bengals are struggling to put together multiple first downs and they're not crossing the 50-yard line. Like, I don't think a bend but not break game style or game plan can work. Like, you can't allow Burrow to just march the ball down the field and kick field goals. Even then, like, you've got to make it where they're going 3 and out on multiple straight drives to give your offense a chance.
Well, and I think the other thing too is that, one of the things that you've really kind of added to your arsenal this year that you didn't have last year is a really dangerous punt return team, but you're not going to get any opportunity to use that if every single offense marches across the 50 every single drive. You've got to find a way to get them off the field on the other side, on their side of the field, so you can provide an opportunity for your very talented punt returner to at the very least give you good field position, but maybe even take one back to the house and kind of give you some extra points.
And the Bengals punter's not great. It's Kevin Huber. He had some shanks last week, especially when they were backed up in their own territory. If this can be one of the games where, he's punting from his 17-yard line, maybe Turpin can take it inside the 35-yard line, 30-yard line. You're already in scoring position. That's how you kind of keep yourself in a game.
Win in the margins.
Yes.
Win in the margins. Yes. I mean, if you can't win, if you don't have the better quarterback, which the Cowboys are going to be out quarterbacked for basically every single week except for New York when we play the Giants. I think you've got to find a way to win in the margins. Obviously, that starts with defense for the Cowboys for sure. But this year, it's going to have to include special teams as well. The Cowboys are in a better position than they were 2 years ago to deal with special teams situations. Yes. They've got a better group. They need to avail themselves of that talent.
All right, game predictions. Who do you got winning this game? And what's the score?
I got the Bengals winning. I mean, I think it's tough to pick against them at this point. I think there are definitely paths to victory for the Cowboys team. The Bengals, they need to win, but it was not an inspiring performance last week when they lost, and it could easily snowball for them. And this Super Bowl hangover, as someone who was alive for 3 Super Bowls the Cowboys won, I can tell you it is a thing at sometimes. So I think the Cowboys lose. I think it's something like 27-24. I think that ends up where it's going to be a low scoring game through 3 quarters. And then by the 4th quarter, I bet each team scores a touchdown or one of them scores 2 touchdowns. I do think it will be kind of sloppy early. I think both teams will try to want to win with the run game early to kind of get their quarterback settled in. I mean, obviously ours is a backup quarterback and Burrow is just, had a wild week last week. I think they'd like to settle him in a little bit more. And I think ultimately at the end of the day, it's just too much for the Cowboys to overcome, unfortunately, and they lose.
I would feel much better about this game if T. Higgins weren't playing. He got knocked out in the first quarter of the Steeler game. It changed the whole game plan because once Higgins was out, Tyler Boyd got a little bit nicked up, and the Bengals really had one player to throw it to, in Jamar Chase. And
that was almost
it was enough. If they just make an extra point or a 29-yard field goal, they win the game. But when they have Higgins and Chase out there, it's really hard to stop those 2 guys because now Anthony Brown matched up against T. Higgins 1-on-1. That's not a great matchup. We've seen Trevon Diggs and Jamar Chase go at it before. That does not favor Diggs. It's going to be tough. I will say, Landon, I think the Cowboys are going to steal a couple games over the next month. I do. Yeah, I think the Giants game is a winnable game. I even think the Eagles game is somewhat winnable. Not this one. Not the first one without Dak Prescott. We saw in 2020. You remember the first game after Dak got hurt? They got demolished by the Cardinals on Monday Night Football. It's going to take them some time. So I expect this game to be close for a half, maybe, but ultimately I'm going to say 28-13, something like that.
Yeah, I mean, listen, I wish we could give a bunch of positive news, but it's not like Dak didn't get hurt last week.
No. But the good thing, if you're looking for reasons why to watch this game other than the final score, keep an eye on Tyler Smith. We thought he was pretty good in week 1. Watch Micah Parsons. Watch Tyler Biotish, who we thought was, had a pretty nice game. Watch Terrence Steele. Keep an eye on the offensive line because if the Cowboys want any chance to claw back into the season, those 3 guys are going to be really important to their success.
All these young starters, guys, all of them, just watch them. Just if they're going to have any opportunity to do something on the back end, like Marcus said, those guys are all going to need to step up because you're going to need to win a ton of games once he gets back. And that's not something that Dak is going to be able to do on his own. He needs the defense to be playing well. He needs his young offensive line to be playing well. He needs his young talent to be playing well around him. So watching those guys develop to see how they go throughout the season, that's something worth tuning in for. Look, the Cowboys are going to take their lumps. It may not be fun, but there will be opportunity on the back end of the season to try to make it up.
All right, that is it for today's show. Thank you for making Locked On Cowboys your first listen every day. We are here in misery and pain with you. Now make your second listen, the Peacock and Williamson NFL show. Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson give the expert NFL analysis in less than 30 minutes. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow our show on YouTube. You can check it out wherever you get your podcasts. Follow Landon at McCoolBCB. I am at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy the game. We'll be back here on Monday to break it all down.